Push to end stamp duty. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Got my stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au. This is from the New South Wales Treasurer, his plans to end stamp duty. Now he also has plans to increase GST. And what will happen if they get rid of stamp duty? Now, for those of you who are not aware, here in Australia we have to pay stamp duty. Every time you sell or buy a property, or every time you sell a property, you have to pay stamp duty. And it's paid by the buyer. The buyer. And it can be a fair chunk of money. And it goes to the state for stamping your title. For stamping and recording the transaction. For a small property paying 20 grand up to 80 grand, 10 grand for a stamp. A stamp. So of course, the costs of providing that service by the state isn't quite as high as the duty might be. So the states tend to get addicted to this source of money. They tend to get addicted. They love the fact the property prices go up because that means they get more of their juicy stamp duty. Then they can spend that on other things to attract more people, to increase the demand for property, make property prices go up, get more stamp duty, win more votes. So the proposal is to remove stamp duty, to make it cheaper for first-home buyers and people in property. They're just caring about us, guys. They're caring about us, the little guys. And they'll just put in a little land tax. Don't worry about that. Just the land tax. So every year you'll be paying more and more and more. I know. Oh, in 5 years' time, we've had to increase the land tax due to blah, 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 up 10%. Can you see that happening? Do we need another tax? They talk about getting rid of this, but they will guaranteed to replace it with other things. There are people advocating for land tax. Do you really want that burden? I was watching another YouTuber, Canadian, who discusses property. Mike Myers. No, I got his name wrong. Mike in the Night. And he was just talking about land tax going up for one of his views, up $300 a month. Which, sure, it's in Canadian dollars, but that's still a hit. It's decent money. No, actually, I think it was $300 a month US going up. As one of his viewers in the States. I mean, that's decent coin. $300. So, do we want to encourage this? Are they trying to sell us down a path towards land tax and increased GST? Wasn't GST meant to remove all of the stamp duties? Wasn't that part of what was sold to us back in the day? Sadly, we've probably got too many voters now that are too young to remember that. So New South Wales Treasurer Dominic Perotti has announced bold plans to end stamp duty as one of the many tax reforms to help the nation recover from the economic hit of the pandemic. So this is the tax reform. I mean, you can't blame him for targeting property. Property is our obsession. Australians love property. They just want to, everyone is interested in property. Everyone wants to own several properties. You've got people negative gearing multiple properties, paying interest-only loans because it's the path to making a quid. Whatever happened to the entrepreneurial spirit? Under the recommendations to be delivered to the federal government, stamp duty would be replaced with a broad-based land tax. Oh, there we go. Which experts say would increase first home buying and could increase housing affordability. There you go. So instead of having to pay it in one big hit, you'll pay it as a land tax over time. You know what will happen then? Property prices will go up. They'll factor that into the agents will factor that, they won't need to pay stamp duty in one big hit. We'll put up another 5-10 grand. We'll see if they bite. They're saving it on stamp duty. What do you reckon? You think I'm being a bit paranoid there, guys? Or do you think that's exactly what's going to happen? Let me know in the comments. The tax would initially be opt-in under a lengthy transition period, allowing buyers to pay stamp duty once or land tax annually. In a speech to the National Press Club in Canberra on Wednesday, he said stamp duty was by far the most inefficient tax. Stamp duty growth since the 1850s has just become an impediment for transactions to occur. Well, why don't we just get rid of it? Why do we need to tax people's lands? We're already paying rates. We're already paying fees for our water and everything else, all the other services. Why do we need another tax? Can someone explain it to me? You pay headworks charges when you set up a block too. That's meant to pay for all the infrastructure as well. I mean, it stifles economics and jobs growth for all states right across the nation. And it's time, I think, we did something about it. They always talk about replacing, never about removing. Stamp duty is New South Wales' second largest revenue stream. There you go. This is why these states are addicted to property. This is why everything is going to be chalked to property, guys. This is why the CommBank are predicting potentially a big hit. They'll throw everything at it. Look at it. House builder. Everything they can. We'll just have to see. Wait till rent-keeper appears. Those earnings could take a dive with a switch to land tax. But he said they could be best offset by a GST increase or by broadening the tax's base. There you go. GST is one of our most effective taxes, and it has a relatively low economic cost, but we definitely do not use it as much as other nations, he said. As a share of GDP, GST revenues are the third lowest of all OECD countries, leaving us reliant on higher income taxes and complex funding arrangements to fund frontline services and infrastructure. The GST provides about 12% of tax revenue in Australia, whereas someone in New Zealand, it's 30% of their broadband tax base. Despite failed attempts to make these dramatic changes in the past, the New South Wales Treasurer said there was an appetite for change he believed would help turn his recommendations into legislation. Yeah, they want to prop up property. They want to prop up property. And the problem is they want to expand GST to include food, to include education, to include healthcare. They want to tax people's food. They want to tax people's food. And for small business people, when you have to go through the rigmarole of doing it, it is frustrating. It really is. I hate BAS. I hate it with a vengeance. I'm sure there's some people that love it, but then they become bookkeepers or accountants. As we've gone around and talked to various people, we've felt the momentum for change is strong, and it's not just from a few individual leaders, it's from a broad base across the sector, businesses, academics, and the community, he said. And for the first time in many years, it appears we have the mechanisms to deliver quite genuine reform. It is a good opportunity, and we need to grab it. Well, I would like to see some huge cuts to income tax then. Huge cuts to income tax. But then, of course, you'll see this string of people say, oh, income tax cuts only favor the rich. Well, if you want to get a bigger income tax, you just earn more money. It's that simple. Oh, but I can't because I'm lazy and dumb. Oh, well, there you go. Mr. Perotti was asked to conduct a review into federal financial relations by the PM in August last year. He was joined by former Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson, former New Zealand PM Bill English, high-profile public servant Jane Hulton, Professor of Constitutional Law and Director of the Constitutional Reform Unit at the University of Sydney, Anna Tommy, and John Bain, holder of the Ritchie Chair of Economics at the University of Melbourne. So, what do you think? Do you trust them that removing stamp duty will be good for all of us? And they'll just put in this little land tax and increase GST. So, the landlord class will benefit. The property investor class will benefit. People wanting to enter into the property sector will benefit. You won't have to get the stamp duty. But GST will be increased. GST will be spread to additional items, and you'll be stung with a constant new tax for the rest of the time that you hold a property. What do you think's better or worse? When do you think they'll force people in? Do you think this will, if they're going to announce this, an inter-stamp duty and land tax, there will be a whole lot of movement really quick, where people get in quick before they get stung with this land tax. As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I think it's going to make it harder for people to save a deposit. If your food suddenly goes up 10%, 15%. For us, food is our biggest expense. Biggest expense in our family every month. What if that went up 15%, everyone? How are people going to afford to save up to get into the market? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or you can support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next time.